Down the Spiral Staircase by A.P. Royal. Alice hated the unknown. I think the technical label for her was control freak. She always dotted every T and crossed every I. There were no surprises in Alice's world, yet she found herself here, dazed and confused, and all alone. What the hell is going on? She wondered to herself. This isn't like me, she thought. Not like me at all. Yet here she was, stumbling through the halls of an unknown lobby. She had never taken a drug in her life, hell, not even a sip of alcohol. But this is what she imagined the feeling to be. Delirious, disoriented, loopy, out of control. She gulped. Her worst nightmare had become a reality. Think, Alice. Think. She rummaged through her memory for an inkling of what happened. There was nothing but a foggy haze, and that terrified her to her core. She was wearing her favorite yellow sundress and high-heel combo. There was a rainbow gift bag in her hand. Clearly, I am on my way to celebrate something, she thought. Or was she coming back from a party? A birthday? Maybe a housewarming? The not knowing was frustrating. She reached for the bag and tried to open it. The opening was sealed unusually tight, with a single note laying loose at the top. The note read, 12th floor, in black permanent marker. It wasn't much to work off of, but at least it was something. Rather than tearing the gift bag apart, she decided to follow the note. The elevators were broken. A sign pointed directly to the stairwell. Her head was pulsating. The room shook from side to side in a seasick fashion. Her stomach was killing her too, twisted and hot like someone had ripped out her intestines and grilled them on the barbecue. But through all the pain, she found herself at the foot of the stairs. She started to climb, step by step. The black metal railing cooled to the touch. It wobbled from side to side as she continued to hold on. On the first floor, she heard a familiar voice. Alice? A woman shouted in a creaky tone. As Alice wrapped around the corner, she saw her nanny, one hand holding the door to the hall ajar, the other holding her cat-eye style frames in place on her face. She grinned from ear to ear. Look how you've grown, Pumpkin! Nanny? Alice responded, a puzzled expression on her face. Come along, dear. I've got some tea on the kettle for you, Nanny said. Maybe some other treats if you behave. Oh my goodness, we have so much to talk about. The delicious smell of freshly baked apple pie carried into the stairwell. Alice's mouth began to water. Allie, is that you? Gramps was now standing at the doorway too. Strands of his silver hair were combed neatly across his forehead. He had a permanent frown on his face. Permanent wrinkles formed from a lifetime of grumpiness due to stupid politicians and underperforming sports teams. But the man was as gentle as they come. He was always sweeter than honey to his granddaughter Alice. Gramps? She called out with nervous apprehension. Darling, it's great to see you. Come on in. Stay for a while. Alice wanted to go with them. She did. It was criminal to turn down a slice of apple pie, especially one from Nanny. But something felt wrong with this encounter. Seriously wrong. For one, the lights in the hall seemed not to be working. You could make out nothing behind the door. It was a pitch black void. For two, Nanny and Gramps were flickering. It was subtle, but it was there. If you squinted hard enough, you could make out the short-circuiting. For three, they were dead. They passed away a long time ago when Alice was a kid. She stepped back slowly, hiding her fear behind a flimsy smile. I love you, Nanny. Love you, Gramps. I just really have to go right now. I'll come back after this party and come by for a visit. It's hard saying goodbye to the ones you love, especially family. But her intuition was screaming at her to pull away from their embrace. Alice, no! Nanny shouted. We've missed so much time. Even when you were around, you weren't around enough. Please stay and spend some time with your old grandparents. Don't be rude, Allie. Come for a bit, Gramps pleaded. His wrinkles began to form an actual frown. Alice turned her back and walked away, a tear streaming down her cheek. After the first few steps, she stared down, hoping for a final glimpse. She saw nothing. She only heard the slamming of a door. The stairs were an infinite vortex, spiraling up and up to the ceiling. Her high heels continued to clack against the concrete, as floor by floor she ascended. Alice's face felt hot. Her calves were tired. She didn't know how much more of this she could handle. At floor 6, there was music. A soft jazz tune was playing in the background as the sound of muffled conversation flowed out into the hall. Curiosity got the better of Alice as she paused at the foot of the stairs. Continue up or have a little peek? There were no warning signs that washed over her. What was the harm of having a look? She politely approached the open door. To her surprise, there was no corridor behind the door. It looked to be the entrance of an art exhibition, jam-packed with people. She stood at the doorway, marveling at the pieces on display, abstract art with vibrant colors and geometric shapes. Alice? A man with a mustard yellow beanie broke through a small crowd of people. "Peter!" she exclaimed, blinking in disbelief. "What took you so long?" Peter asked. "People have been gawking at your piece all day, flocking to it like flies to shit, Alice. I'm not kidding." He gestured towards a large painting in the far right corner, an intricate piece with bright 3D lines and points on a dark blue canvas. From a distance, it looked like a stunning constellation in the night sky. "Peter, where are we?" Alice asked sheepishly. The piece looked like it was her style, but she didn't recognize it. He shot her a look that translated to, "Have you gone mad?" "Alice, you need to snap out of it," Peter urged. "I think you may have made it big with this one." He smiled. An older lady in a black dress approached Peter and said something in French. She quickly realized that everyone was speaking French. The lady gently pulled at Peter's arm. He moved his neck towards the constellation painting, whispering to me, "I have to go. Don't be shy and introduce yourself." Goosebumps grew on Alice's arms. She hadn't painted anything in years. The gallery seemed incredibly foreign, far away from the little town in Idaho that Alice decided to settle down in. But she couldn't help but be enthralled. Peter hadn't aged a bit, and it appeared like he finally made it. It looked like she had finally made it too. Her heart fluttered with a nervous excitement. She took a step forward and bounced off an invisible barrier. It felt like a wall was keeping her out. She tried a few more times to no luck. Then a cold gush of air hit her. The music was replaced with silence, and the door began to move. Alice jolted back just in time as the door slammed in her face. A white number 6 hung from the gray metal door. That was all that was visible now. Alice tried the knob one last time and left, deflated, back to the stairwell. She was sick of walking. The air was thicker and colder with every step. The floors felt further and further away, the incline steeper and steeper. When she finally made it to floor 11, she would have cheered if she wasn't so out of breath. "One more floor," she kept telling herself. One more floor. One more floor. But floor 12 never came. It was spiral after endless spiral. The stairs above looked like a swirling cyclone taunting her from the sky. And Alice was trapped in the eye of the storm, completely out of control. She counted 218 steps before she finally gave up. She collapsed in exhaustion into a curled-up ball in the middle of the flight of stairs. The gift bag tumbled down 10 or so steps, the note floating down through the cracks between the steps. The bag eventually landed between the metal railing wrapped around the corner, at the bottom of the flight. She let out a shrill cry. It was a helpless moan that she couldn't contain. The tears followed closely behind. Then the lights went out. Pitch black. Her body froze. The hairs on her neck stood tall as she shuddered in fear. Silence for a moment. Then, the striking of a match. A candle was lit on a vanilla-frosted cake at the top of the stairs, then another and another, until a pretty little girl's face emerged from the shadows. She was just a toddler, her eyes beaming with wonder and excitement. A woman in white was holding her tight, only chest level was visible. Another person was holding the cake up to the kid's face. waiting for her to blow out the candles. The little girl had a cute pink bow on her head and wore a polka dot dress. Alice remained still, taking shallow breaths, waiting in apprehension. There were others standing behind the young girl. All you could see was their legs. All you could hear was shuffling sounds. Something shook at the bottom of the stairs. Alice turned to see a bright beam of light coming from a cheap LED flashlight, one of those pocket flashlights you find at the neighborhood convenience stores. The flashlight was rolling around the bottom stair in a creepy, slow motion. "Alice, come get your gift," said a raspy whisper in her ear. Due to the angle of the light, you could only see up to the person's hip. The person wore an orange reflective vest, dirt-covered jeans, and muddy steel-toe boots. The gift bag was lightly bouncing up and down in a jingling motion. She hesitated, not knowing what to do. There weren't a lot of options. Being sandwiched between these two horror scenes felt like impending doom. "Alice, take it. It's yours," the whisper said. She decided to oblige for fear of what would happen if she didn't. She cautiously took a few shaky steps down, the click-clack of her heels echoing through the stairwell. Her hand was trembling as she grabbed the bag. Once in her hands, the bottom ripped. Thick, viscous blood poured out of the bottom. There was wailing coming from the top of the stairs that shook Alice's bones and made her shriek. Then, everything went white. "Alice!" her mom yelled, tears of joy falling from her face. Alice was groggy and confused, but she finally felt safe. Her eyes darted across the room. She could see various tubes attached to her body. It made her anxious, her heart beating in an erratic panic. "Oh my God, she's awake! Hold tight, dear, I'll grab the doctor." Alice's mom dashed out of the room as the medical staff entered. They shined a light into Alice's eye and performed a copious amount of tests. "Welcome back, Alice," the doctor said warmly. They told Alice to rest up and left her with her mother. Her mother, Janice, was looking rough, her hair disheveled and smelling of sweat. "I left a voicemail with your hubby, Lauren. He's just at work, finishing up those residential buildings on the east side of town. They're almost done, Alice. Years in the making, sure to be quite the construction project once completed." She smiled. "But I know once he hears the news, he's going to come running." She sat down and broke out in tears, her voice trembling as she spoke. "No one thought you would wake up again, baby." She paused, blowing her nose into a tissue. "But I'm stubborn. You know me. I knew you would, love. I knew you would." She grabbed another tissue from the table and dried her eyes. Beside the tissue box were various arrangements of flowers and teddy bears. Janice moved her chair next to Alice's bed. Alice could tell something more was on her mind. She had a troublesome look on her face as Alice focused, using every ounce of energy to place her palm on her mom's arm. Her smile turned into a look of concern. Alice patiently stared into her eyes, the eyes of a woman who never gave up on her daughter. "They told me to wait, to give you time to recover," Janice said. "But this is eating me up inside, Alice. It's been torture." She contemplated a little longer. "You deserve to know, and sooner rather than later." I tried to reply, but nothing came out. My body tensed up as my mother continued. "You've been in a coma for a year, love. 12 months, right on the dot." She paused, searching for the words. "You took a nasty tumble down the stairs of your apartment." She stopped and began to cry. As Alice waited for Janice to continue, she struggled to find the memories to validate what she was hearing. "Oh, you were out cold. The doctors tried their best," Janice said. She slowly exhaled, tears welling up again in her eyes. "They rushed you to the operating room, dear. We were hopeful, despite it all. You were so close to the big day, but in the end there was nothing they could do." I could feel the pain in my mother's eyes. "I'm so sorry, Alice," she swallowed. "The baby, she couldn't be saved."